You talk to yourself. Out loud. When no one's around. And the second someone catches you, you feel that flash of embarrassment, like you've been caught doing something wrong. Stop. Right now, because what you're doing isn't weird. It's not a red flag. It's not something broken people do. It's actually one of the clearest signs that your brain works at a speed most people will never reach. Let me show you what I mean. You're looking for your phone. You know you just had it. So you retrace your steps, and without even thinking, you start speaking. Okay. Kitchen. Then the bathroom. Did I leave it on the counter? No one's there. No audience. But your mouth is moving, and within seconds. You remember exactly where it is. That's not luck. That's your brain doing something most people never figure out how to access. Here's what nobody tells you. The voice in your head, the one that never stops narrating, analyzing, replaying, planning what to say next, it's exhausting to keep it all locked inside. It's like trying to organize a library while every book is flying around the room. But the second you speak, even just to yourself, something shifts. The chaos doesn't disappear, but suddenly there's structure. There's order. Your thoughts were tangled yarn, and your voice is the hand that pulls one thread at a time until you can actually see the pattern. Most people don't do this. They let their thoughts crash into each other and call that thinking. But you, whether you meant to or not, discovered a shortcut. You turned your brain into a dialogue instead of a storm. And that changes everything. Here's the part that might surprise you. When you talk to yourself, you're not just repeating what's already in your head. You're creating new understanding. Think about it. How many times have you started explaining something out loud, maybe practicing what you'll say, or working through a problem, and halfway through, you realize something you didn't know before? It's like the act of speaking pulls thoughts out of the fog. You hear yourself say it, and suddenly, wait. That's it. That's what I've been trying to figure out. That's because your brain doesn't process spoken words the same way it processes silent thoughts. When you speak, you activate a completely different system. You engage the part that produces language, yes, but also the part that listens, the part that interprets, the part that problem solves. You're not just thinking anymore. You're thinking, hearing, and adjusting in real time. It's like suddenly working with 3 tools instead of 1, and they're all synced up. But here's what almost no one realizes. When you talk to yourself, especially when you're stressed or overwhelmed, you create distance. Not physical. Psychological. And it's incredibly powerful. Imagine you're spiraling. Maybe about a mistake. Maybe a decision you can't figure out. If you keep it inside, you stay trapped in it. You are the problem. But the moment you say it out loud, okay, what am I actually worried about here, you shift. You go from being the person drowning in the feeling to the person observing it. You become both the one struggling and the one helping. You become your own ally. This is something therapists teach people to do on purpose. It's called self-distancing, and it's one of the most effective tools for emotional regulation. But you didn't need to be taught. You figured out that when the volume in your head gets too loud, speaking cuts through it. And that's not a flaw. That's emotional intelligence in action. Think about the moments you do this most. Maybe when you're working on something complicated, talking yourself through each step. Maybe when you're upset, trying to make sense of why. Maybe in the car, replaying a conversation and saying what you wish you'd said. In every single one of those situations, you're not being irrational. You're being strategic. You're using your voice as a tool to organize, to process, to release what would otherwise stay stuck, and yet we've been taught to see this as something to be ashamed of. That talking to yourself means you're lonely, unstable, disconnected from reality. But that's backwards. The people who never talk to themselves, who keep everything locked inside, they're the ones carrying weight they don't know how to put down. They're replaying the same thoughts over and over without resolution. You found a way out of that loop. Here's something else. The greatest thinkers, the people we admire for their intelligence and creativity, they all did this. Einstein used to walk through his neighborhood muttering equations, working through problems out loud because silence wasn't enough. Tesla would pace and narrate his inventions, speaking them into existence before they ever touched paper. Even Beyoncé has talked about how she coaches herself through performances, through doubt, through decisions. These aren't people who lost touch with reality. These are people whose minds move faster than the world around them, and speaking is how they keep up. You're in that same category. Your brain doesn't sit still. It doesn't wait for permission. It's constantly building, questioning, connecting. And sometimes, the only way to keep up with it is to let it spill out. Not because you're broken, but because you're engaged. You're actively working with your mind instead of just passively experiencing it, and here's the truth most people will never understand. Silence doesn't equal depth. Just because someone is quiet doesn't mean they're thinking deeply. Sometimes, they're just quiet. But you've learned that your voice is a bridge. It takes abstract, invisible, overwhelming thoughts and turns them into something you can actually work with. It's the difference between being lost in your own head and being in conversation with it. So the next time someone walks in on you mid-sentence and gives you that look, the one that says, "Are you okay?" just know this. They're hearing noise. You're running a process they don't have access to. They're seeing something strange. You're doing something sophisticated. And the fact that it looks unusual to them says more about what they're not doing than what you are. You're not talking to yourself because you've lost it. You're talking to yourself because you found something most people spend their whole lives searching for. Clarity. Focus. A way to make sense of the chaos without needing anyone else to do it for you. You're self-sufficient in the most powerful way, not because you don't need people, but because you've learned how to be your own first line of support. You've learned to check in, coach yourself, calm yourself down, and figure things out without waiting for someone else to show up and do it for you, and that's not something to hide. That's not something to be embarrassed about. That's a skill. That's intelligence. That's you being more in tune with how your brain actually works than most people will ever be, so let them think it's weird. Let them raise their eyebrows. While they're silently judging, you're solving problems they'll spend hours spinning on. While they're bottling up stress, you're releasing it in real time. While they're waiting for clarity to magically arrive, you're creating it with every word you speak. You're not broken. You're not losing your mind. You're just running it at a level most people don't reach. If this resonates, if you've ever felt like talking to yourself was something you had to hide, drop a comment. Tell me when you do it most. Tell me what it helps you with. Because I guarantee you're not alone, and the people who do this are the ones who understand themselves better than anyone else ever could. And if you want more videos that actually explain how your mind works, without the judgment, without the fluff, just real psychology broken down in a way that makes sense, subscribe. Because the people who think differently deserve content that actually gets it.